listeners. Welcome to Plano's Political Pitbull podcast. I am Esther.
And I'm Ruth.
And we have some really big news for you today. But first, our sponsor is Southwest Pain Management. Southwest Pain Management takes care of most chronic pain without pain pills. Their goal is to get you back to doing the things you love. They are the world's leading long COVID experts. Dr. Groisman sees people from all over the world to treat their long COVID. Southwest Pain Management is in Plano. Please go to their website, reliefbeginshere.com. That's reliefbeginshere.com to see all that they do. So first up, for the very first time in the current Plano City Council's history, there were not unanimous in their votes at the last city council meeting.
Ooh.
I know, it is shocking, amazing.
We haven't had that in the last couple months.
We haven't had that, I think, since, well, I looked back in my notes, since November. And then that's where my notebook started. So I don't think we've had it since June.
Okay, so almost a year.
Yeah. But I would have to double check that just to make 100% sure. But yes, at least since November, there have been all unanimous votes until the March 23rd, 2026 meeting. 2, not just one, but 2 items on that agenda had some council members actually voting no. Wonders never cease. Let us take a moment of silence gratitude that somebody actually stood up.
And had an opinion?
Well, voted differently than the rest of their group.
Yes, it had an opinion.
Let's put it that way. Yes. So, the first item that did not get unanimous vote was on an item that was pulled from the consent agenda by a resident. It was item C. It was for $156,000 for pool repairs. So this was pulled by resident Bill Lyle, and the pool in question was opened in May 2023. So the pool is only 3 years old. But of course, right as the warranty expired, the pool broke.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I swear they do that on purpose.
So, yeah, the warranty's only good for approximately 2 years.
And that's when it breaks.
And that's what, yep.
They only make it good for about 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is a pool. You would think that they would make it good for a little bit longer than that, but
Nope.
So the pool broke, and now it doesn't hold water, which when you're wanting a pool, that is sort of the biggest thing the pool does, is hold water. So Bill Lyle said, this needs to be questioned as to why it broke in only 3 years. I mean, most pools last a heck of a lot longer than that. So what the staff said was, when they were pouring the concrete, or when the workers were pouring the concrete, something shifted during the pour, and needless to say, did not turn out well for the pool, and as to why it didn't last. Now, obviously, they subcontracted out the pool building to somebody outside. So clearly they did not do a good job the first time. So Councilmember Horn, he asked why the engineers didn't catch this early enough when I guess they were doing the pouring of the concrete when they were building the pool, so that they could go back and fix it right away, and that maybe the council can catch and recover the costs of having to now fix the 3-year-old pool. City manager Mark Israel said that in the future, they would make sure this doesn't happen again. Also, Councilmember Horn wants to talk to legal about recovery. Now, Councilwoman Thomas, she asked why such a short warranty. I mean, that was my question. I mean, I had to repair a pool once, and I can tell you I had a longer warranty than 2 years. But apparently, when it comes to city pools, that is the standard 2-year warranty. Councilman Vidal, he wants to add that if they can recover the costs of the pool in the motion to approve, because 3 years of life doesn't make sense. You could say that again. It surely heck doesn't make sense. And Councilmember Horn agreed, and he really wants to have the legal department look at this carefully and see if they can recover any money. But Mark Israel, city manager, kept saying, well, we need to fix the pool so that it's ready for summertime, which is just around the corner. So we will look at that after this vote because they need the money to fix the pool, or it's not going to be open by Memorial Day. So the item passed, but it passed 6-2. And the dissenting votes were Vidal and Thomas. Now, they asked good questions, but they really didn't say why they were voting against the funding. It seemed a little logical to me that, look, we got to make sure the pool's opened, so we got to fix the pool, and we could be tied up in a legal battle or mediation for who knows how long. So we got to appropriate the money now to fix the pool, and then we can try to recover the costs of fixing the pool at a later date. But I found it shocking that they dissented. So the next item that did not get a unanimous vote was a zoning case. Zoning case 2025-003. Yes, this goes all the way back to last year. Very early in the year, you could tell that by the number 3 after the dash. So that zoning case wants to expand and amend an urban mixed use development. This is property at Plano Parkway, Custer, and 191, so off the George Bush Turnpike. Mm-hmm. And they want to allow for outdoor amusements such as mini golf, multifamily units, single-family townhomes, and some light industrial, which they think is already on the property. So the phasing would be initially that past planning and zoning was to have the non-residential go first. And then the 700 additional multifamily would come online. This is a thing that planning and zoning does regularly because we have seen in the past where we'll get these zoning changes for these mixed-use developments, and the developer comes in and he says, oh, we're going to have restaurants and we're going to have retail and we're going to have this and we're going to have that. And by the way, we're going to have a few thousand apartments, but where it'll be totally mixed use. And they build the apartments first, and then they don't build anything else. And then sometimes they come back to planning and zoning and say, well, we got to change this to all apartments. And planning and zoning goes, what do you mean you got to change it to all apartments? You said this was going to be a mixed-use development.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
Yes. So this does not conform to the comprehensive plan, this now zoning change that they want. However, if they were to not have submitted this last year before the rules changed from the legislature that said that developers could pretty much do a zoning change without going through zoning, pretty much doing a zoning change by themselves under SB 840. We talked about SB 840 at great length in 2025. This was the bill that said that if you had an office building and you couldn't lease out an office building for quite some time, the owner of the property could convert it to apartments or condos, some kind of multifamily, without going through planning and zoning, pretty much circumventing planning and zoning completely. This was a terrible bill. Well, the way I understood the bill is I understood it as, and the way it was sold was if you had an actual building, not if you had empty land. Well, this land right now has apartments on it and a little bit of industrial, but further down. That's it. It doesn't have a lot on it. There is no office building on it. They were supposed to build office. That was the initial plan. They were going to have office and some retail and a little bit of multifamily. So the developer under this new law never really considered doing this as an SB 40 type thing, circumventing planning and zoning. It was actually staff that went up to the developer and said, are you planning on changing this and doing this under SB 840? And they were like, no, we hadn't even thought of it. So thanks a lot, staff. So to the questions. CARE asked for some clarification on what the developer was looking to do. He asked about, well, are there any urban mix with light industrial? And the answer was not really. And is there any precedence for this? And the answer was from staff, we would need to go back and look and then get back to council. They also asked to see the legislative findings from planning and zoning. So they actually showed the paper that each planning and zoning commissioner has to fill out on why they either passed it or failed it. And only Commissioner Brunoff failed it, and he said it doesn't conform to the comprehensive plan. Good reason to fail it, in my view. But the other commissioners basically were worried about the new law, SB 840, and at least they felt like they had some control over this project. So the applicant came up, and the applicant said that the office demand has gone down and that it needs to be rezoned, this property. Now, that's a strange comment to me, because do you remember what we talked about a couple of episodes ago
That
AT&T was doing?
We're gonna have to be more specific.
AT&T came and rezoned a property that had multifamily and office on it and said, we don't need the multifamily, we just need the office building. So clearly office is still going, because AT&T was like, well, we don't need this to be a mixed-use development, we just need the office. The applicant also said the land has apartments on it and some retail already and the light industrial. They are removing the proposed hotel and some of the office buildings. I think they're keeping one that was originally proposed. The area that is currently zoned light industrial, they actually want to remove it and build townhomes instead. Okay, I can go along with the townhomes. You want to remove the light industrial and build townhomes. I'm fine with that. Seems okay. He also wants to add restaurants, entertainment, and as I said, keep one office building. The developer had an issue with the phasing that the planning and zoning passed. They were requesting that basically you need to build the multifamily, have a certificate of occupancy for the multifamily before you build the non-residential on some of the other blocks of property or the other parts of the property. The developer had a problem with this, and they are also requesting that where the planning and zoning wanted the air intakes was not good. They didn't think they could do that, so they were requesting to change that. Now, the air intakes is a little complicated. So as I said, this is right next to Bush Turnpike. I don't know why they build single and multifamilies next to a highway. It makes zero sense to me. Because obviously you're going to have more noise and more air pollution. Just logical. So what planning and zoning said was, you've got to build the air intakes, the air that's coming in from the outside. You need to build these facing the courtyard. They don't want them facing the highway, thinking that would mitigate the pollution. I hate...
That's not how air works.
Yeah, exactly. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but yeah, not how air works. Okay?
You can't just gas just goes where it wants to go.
I mean, the only way I guess you could do it is maybe see which way the wind is blowing.
But the wind changes.
Exactly, the wind changes. I don't know. Okay. So somehow, some way, the developer did not like this idea. He didn't think that they could do it. And he also said, if we could do it the way the building code is for Plano, it'll be more expensive. Making, of course, the cost of the apartments more expensive to rent. But again, I don't know why you're building something next to a highway. I looked at the plans, and they don't have to put the apartments next to a highway. They could put the apartments on the side of Plano Parkway, all the way across the property, and then have buildings, the non-residential buildings on that side up by the highway, which makes more sense to me because if you're coming off the highway, you want to turn in and go to retail. You don't want to have to go through a residential apartment community as you're trying to drive to the parking lot to get to a restaurant or to a retail place or to your office building. But that's not how they designed this, so here we are. Well, Bill Lyle, he stood up and he was against this proposal, and he said that residential next to 191 or George Bush Turnpike is poor policy. And to have someone rewrite zoning because the current zoning doesn't make them money is also not good policy. I would agree with that. I don't always agree with everything Bill Lyle says, but I have to agree. I agree with him on this because if somebody could come and say, my property is zoned office and I can't make any money on it, or it's zoned restaurant and my restaurant's going under, I want to put something else there, then zoning becomes meaningless. It is all you're doing is making people jump through hoops for an end that they're already going to get. So Councilwoman 2, she basically said office is not doing well, which again, I don't know how you could say that when you literally just passed a zoning case a couple of weeks ago to have just an office zoning, moving the mixed use to just office. I don't know how you can say that. She asked the applicant about the stipulations on the phasing, and she was also quite, as she put it, uncomfortable with changing something that P&Z did, which never really stopped her before. I mean, she's overturned P&Z's rulings when they voted something down. Councilman Levine said he understands that the applicant wants to do this multifamily before the non-residential, and why? Really? Okay. And Care also asked about phasing and why P&Z wanted them to do the retail first. Clearly, Councilman Care has not watched a P&Z meeting. I'm sure they went over it at the P&Z meeting. That's why you got to watch the meetings at P&Z, Councilman Care. However, he struggles to change what P&Z passed. So that was a good thing. Same thing, obviously, with 2. Now, Horn, who was actually on planning and zoning before he came to council, he likes the applicant's phasing, Doesn't seem to have a problem with that. He likes the townhomes. The only issue he has is the multifamily apartments next to the highway. And there was a lot of back and forth on that. Munns was, and there was a lot of concern about the air intakes. Munns was fine with the phasing, and again, wanting to keep, I think, the air intakes that P&Z did. So that's basically what the motion was that Levine made. And again, surprisingly, it passed 5-2 with one abstention.
Interesting.
Yes, the abstention was Maria too.
Interesting.
Very interesting. She never said, so I am unclear about why she abstained. Why couldn't she make a decision? Instead, she basically voted present. I'm here, but I don't want to vote. Like I said, the only thing she said was she was uncomfortable and she was struggling with changing what P&Z did. Fine, then vote no. What's the problem with voting no? That would have been a 5-3. It still would have passed. And Thomas and Vidal...
Maybe she doesn't like voting no.
That's an interesting observation. Maybe she doesn't like voting no. I would have to see how many times she's actually voted no in the past. I can't remember. She's been there now 6+ years, so I can't remember every vote she took. So Thomas and Vidal, again, are on the same page, but they didn't ask a single question. They didn't ask a question of staff. They didn't ask anything of the applicant. They didn't say why they were voting against this. They just voted against it. It would help the folks, us little people down here who actually pay the taxes. It would help us understand why you're voting the way you're voting if you tell us what your problem is with the thing that you are voting against. But I'm not gonna diminish it. They actually went and did something different, and I'm happy about that. So kudos for that. But again, it would be helpful if you opened your mouth and told us why you're voting this way. And also, maybe it would have swayed the other council members. A lot of times, for example, Shelby and Anthony, now former council members, they would tell to the council what exactly they were thinking and feeling and what their opinions were as part of a way to try to sway the council to their side. You can't do that if you don't open your mouth. All right. Now on to something I told you all about last episode, I think. And that is about comments of public interest. If you listened to our previous episode, we had told you that the council has decided to limit your ability to petition the government for a redress of grievances, to actually go to your city council and tell them basically your grievances, or you got a problem, you want a solution, or something needs fixing. So I told you all then that I was going to try and write something up for legislation for the next legislature session in 2027. in the Texas House and Senate. So here is my legislation. Now, this would fall under the Government Code 551.007. So Section 551.007 of the Government Code. And it is public testimony. And the current code says that a governmental body shall allow each member of the public who desires to address the body regarding an item on the agenda for an open meeting of the body to address the body regarding the item at the meeting before or during the body's consideration of the item. So they already do that. So yeah, you're allowed to, you must, if you're any government body, must allow speakers to speak on an agenda item before they vote on it. Apparently, Plano schools, the trustees there, they allow you to speak on an agenda item, but at the end of the meeting, after they voted.
What's the point?
Exactly. They're breaking the law, and they need to be held accountable for that. So if you're going to Plano School District's Board of Trustees meeting and you want to speak on an agenda item and they don't let you speak on it during consideration of the item, they're breaking the law and you need to report them. So this was what I added, okay, to what I want added to the law. And it's under item C. A governmental body shall have comments of public interest on all their regular meeting agendas where the body shall allow each member of the public who desires to address the body regarding an item not listed on the agenda. Comments of public interest shall be the first public agenda item. And I did that because right now it comes right after the Pledge of Allegiance and the proclamations and all that stuff, and before the consent agenda. And the problem that 2 was having was that the Boy and Girl Scouts were still in the audience when Alex Stein would come up and act like a clown. So by putting it on the public agenda item number 1, always, by that time, Boy and Girl Scouts will be gone. Also, I go on. Government bodies can prioritize residents first, then those who own one or more businesses where the government body represents, then non-residential property owners or workers where the government body represents. Then non-residents who have no connection to the place the government body represents. This will also help with the Alex Stein problem because he does not work in Plano, he does not live in Plano, he doesn't own property in Plano, so Alex gets to go last. And you might be wondering, how are they going to know where he lives and or works? Well, guess what? You have to actually write your address down. And if we want to make sure that we've got people who actually own property in Plano, you can ask them if you own property in Plano. They could fill out that address, or if you work in Plano, where do you work in Plano? Give me an address. If the government body has live video conferencing, such as Zoom, or has the ability to live video conference, the body shall allow the public to use it during public comments on agenda and non-agenda items. That takes care of the getting rid of the Zoom issue. So now our we are back in compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Also, I added to the next letter, which, because I'm adding C, I'm changing C, this now becomes D. I added to a government body made up reasonable rules regarding the public's right to address the body under this section, including rules that limit the total amount of time that a member of the public may address the body on a given item. And then I added to no less than 2 minutes. I have had it with people asking to speak and the mayor saying, you have 1 minute or you have 90 seconds. On the website, when you sign up to speak, it says that you will get 3 minutes to speak. However, the mayor may, or the presiding officer may change that time and go to less. This really drives people crazy because they have no idea how much time they're going to get. So if you come there and you're prepared and you have your written speech and remarks and you've done your due diligence, you've practiced in front of a mirror, you've practiced how long it's going to take you, and you're like, okay, good, I'm under the 3 minute mark, I've got 2 minutes and 30 seconds, that's perfect. And then the mayor says, you have 1 minute. Now you're scrambling. You're scrambling because now you have to figure out, what am I going to cut? What am I going to strike through? This at least will tell the residents who want to speak, this is how much time you have. We're not taking it away from you. So what my theory of this is, government bodies are probably going to say, well, if we have to give no less than 2 minutes, then we're just going to give 2 minutes all the time. I'm totally fine with that. I'm totally fine with that. Just residents got to be prepared for it. And that's all there is to it. I am willing to negotiate on the time because my understanding is that sometimes the council has people who are there to present who are getting paid by the hour, like these fancy schmancy consultants. Now, if you're hiring consultants that are getting paid by the hour, you need to rethink that, because that could get very costly very, very quickly, even if you don't have them come to a governmental body. But it's got to be a reasonable amount of time. You can't just say, well, 1 minute. I don't care how fast you talk. Not a lot can be covered in 1 minute. So that is my proposed legislation. I have already sent it off to my reps to see what they can do with it. And obviously I have to wait until next year and to see if this goes anywhere. Hopefully the reps that are currently there, my reps who are currently there, win their re-election, because then I have to submit this again to a person I may not be very familiar with. So hopefully I can get this across the finish line for the residents. It would help, if you want, for you to submit the same proposed legislation to your folks in office, to your reps, and then they'll see that there is a demand for this. And you know what they say, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So if there's more people who are demanding this change, then it's more likely to get done, as I have come to realize at least at the state level. At the local level, forget it. Any comments, Ruth, on my very first proposed legislation?
Not really.
Not really? You're happy with all of it?
Yeah.
I didn't leave anything out?
Sounded fine.
Okay. No loopholes that you could think of.
No, nothing I could think of.
All right, yeah, you gotta watch out for those loopholes. Lawyers are very good at finding loopholes. All righty. That is good. Well, on to our cute and cuddly VID, very important doggy, Thor. Thor is a friendly boy who is about 2 years of age, and he is very playful with children. He is active when he plays, so may be best in a home without young children. Thor was very excited for his first pups in the park walk. He had a lot of energy as he left his kennel, but settled down quickly. He was very patient while being harnessed in the lobby of the shelter and loaded into the car without issue. Thor rode well in the car and was very relaxed. He walked well on leash and got along well with the other dogs in the group. Thor exhibited no prey drive while encountering birds and squirrels along the walk. So if you are interested in seeing more on Thor or going to see Thor in person, please go to our website, planospoliticalpitbull.com, and click on the link Pitbulls for Adoption. That is a wrap for us today, folks. Please like, share, and subscribe. This is Esther.
And this is Ruth.
For Plano's Political Pitbull, signing off.